Trevor Lawrence,
Zach Wilson, Justin Fields,
Trey Lance, Kwity Paye,
Jamar Chase, J.C. Horn.
This is a prime draft.
You can't fall into the trap of recognizing the two letters in front of his name.
You're not afraid of some of that press coverage. You know, you're not afraid of getting in guys' face, playing man, putting your back to the ball.
Would that not be amazing, though?
Is the defense for real? There's a lot of question marks here.
In the game of the draft, yeah, you want to get the most value out of guys, but it's also about going up to get your guy.
I'm here for it, but it's not going to happen.
Look, this is an all-in move. Go do it.
Where do we want to go from here, gentlemen?
But hey, crazy things have happened in the draft.
Welcome into the Underdog Fantasy Football Show here on Brinks.tv. I'm Jaime Eisner, and I am thrilled to be joined by Josh Norris live here from Brinks Studio, coming all the way in, traveling out here for us for a humongous week of NFL draft coverage, and there's a lot of fantasy football angles to take. But before we dive into it, we're going to get especially into the running backs today, because we all know rookie running backs are always in vogue in fantasy. Tell the viewers out there a little bit more about Underdog Fantasy and all the things they can do on the app, on the website, and all that other information we're going to be using tonight to help guide us.
Yeah, absolutely. Underdog Fantasy is a wonderful app or on your desktop experience. It's super sleek on your cell phone. We just announced Best Ball Mania 2. I should say not even announced. We teased it. So maybe if you want to win, I don't know, 7 figures in a season-long fantasy football tournament, I don't know who wouldn't want to do that. Maybe keep your interest and attach that to Underdog Fantasy this weekend. But in the meantime, we also have Pick'em. We also have Rookies and Sophomores, which is a fun tournament.
I love that, by the way.
With just first and second year players. So yeah, go over right now and check out Underdog Fantasy either on your app or on desktop.
It's so fun because you think back even 5, 6, 7 years ago, as fantasy football was really starting to boom, you still had very limited options. Like I remember when, and you can probably attest to this better than I can, when PPR was exotic.
Yes.
Ooh, we're adding a catch. We're adding bonuses for 100 yards, and that was like the most exotic thing. Oh no, we have a flex spot now. And now it's like Rookies and Sophomores, which is really, really exciting. And for those of you that are tuned into the Draft Network a lot, what a great way to put your knowledge to the test. You watched all these guys last year. You're watching all these guys this year. What's the best way to put that knowledge to the test and saying, I know these 2 draft classes better than probably anybody else playing?
And what I hear all the time is, well, why draft now? Why not wait until August or September? Well, that's what Best Ball's for. Yeah. Best Ball is so much fun because it takes the best part of fantasy football, which is just drafting. There's no waivers, there's no setting lineups, there's no trades, there's none of that. And whoever drafts the best team wins in the end. So all of you out there, if you've never even tried Best Ball, go try it one time. $5, $3, $10, $20, whatever you want to do. You'll be hooked. I guarantee it. I was, and that's how I wound up working there. So that's how it works.
Look, it's low maintenance. You know, you might play DFS a ton. You want to do all that, but it's a low maintenance, and for this time of year.
And your viewers are going to have the edge. You're going to have
exactly.
The edge.
This is the time because you're paying attention now. You know the fits now. You know where these players are. Everybody's going to kind of catch up, and there's going to be a lot. And if you watched our show last night, you know there's going to be a lot of hype around some of these guys. Kyle Pitts, if he ends up going at number 4, which seems likely right now. Love the player, but the draft hype for him is going to go up. You can kind of get in on some of these guys in advance if you've been watching them for a while. And you know, man, I really like this player. And I have a sleeper running back we're going to get into a little bit later in the show. But you could take those opportunities, and especially in best ball, you're looking for upside, particularly for later in the draft. You don't have the waiver wires.
Here's the thing: like if you were ahead of Chase Claypool last year, if you were ahead of James Robinson last year, those were league-winning types if you got them at the right spot. Kyle Pitts is not one of those right now on Underdog. He's going as the tight end 6, but you know if you like him more than Mark Andrews and Darren Waller, and take him as the tight end 3 or 4. And I'm super excited for us to talk about running backs today because I'm sure we'll uncover, hopefully, even in a down running back class, some that will go on and be productive because there's at least one every year that goes after round 1 that ends up being a foundation back, a fequture back, at least during their rookie season.
And look, and you brought up James Robinson earlier. That's the guy because of Leonard Fournette getting cut. They had Raquel Armstead, unfortunately, had some real severe COVID complications that lingered for many months. So all of a sudden, it went from somebody that was, this is a kind of intriguing UDFA that's having a decent camp. Maybe he'll make the practice squad to a top 5 fantasy running back and a league winner, because not only was he wasn't even a late round pick for most leagues. He was a just go pick him up because you saw the Fournette news.
Correct, and no preseason didn't help us at all. I have one name in mind that might be like that. Should we start diving into the list?
Let's get into the running backs, and let's talk about the running back that most expect to be the first off the board in both the real-life draft and the fantasy football drafts. Right now, he currently has an ADP at Underdog, and I'm going to double check.
I've got it for you right now.
Is it still? Because I looked the other day.
32 or 33, around
okay, so
there.
32.1 is where I saw, so that's kind of where he's going in that range. So late third round in a 12-team format.
Yep.
We talked about the most common landing spot for him. He is mocked at Pittsburgh everywhere. But let's talk about Pittsburgh first, but then we have to pretend there's going to be some other possibilities, because if you want to do a best ball draft tonight, you want to do it tomorrow leading into the draft, we have to consider a wider group of topics. But let's start with the obvious one. If he goes to Pittsburgh at number 24, it's a backfield that's been vacated by James Conner, who's off in Arizona.
Right.
They've got Anthony McFarland. They've got Benny Snell.
Do they?
They're guys. They're there. They're on the depth chart.
No offense.
Yeah, with all due respect. Look, my football playing career ended in high school because I sucked. I'm not throwing
That stuns
shade.
me.
I am. It shouldn't.
Shocked.
It shouldn't. But there's room to be had here, and if there's a team that has just a ton of volume available for a rookie running back to come in and just soak it all up, it is Pittsburgh.
And they're going to do stuff differently this year. And I know they're bringing the band back together. Ben Roethlisberger's back. Juju Smith-Schuster's back. But the play calling is going to be different. Now it's Matt Canada, and it's most likely because they don't want to do it the same way they did it last year. Even though they started the season, I think 11-0, 10-0.
11-0.
Yeah, they were winning a whole bunch of ball games. They were first.
But then what happened?
Yeah, they were first in pass plays, 7th in total plays last year, first in neutral pass rate, which we love. Hey, if it's a one-score ball game, we love those teams that love to throw the football. But 28th in run plays last year. Now, let's theorize a little bit why they didn't love running the football. One, it wasn't as efficient as maximizing the 3 wide receiver sets that they had.
Yep.
And 2, they just had a mess of an offensive line in terms of injuries. Guess what, though?
But it's gotten worse.
Yes, it might be even worse this year depending on what they do during draft weekend. So that's my concern, because while running backs production, it can be somewhat similar from team to team. It can even be somewhat similar from player to player. Picking up the yards that are blocked for you is what a good running back should do.
Yes.
Creating yards on your own is what a great running back should do. And I'm not sure if we have a tremendous running back in this class, but there's so much smoke around the local Steelers beat that is suggesting, let's go traditional, let's go old school and bring back the highly ranked running back in this class. And if that's the case, then there's, like you said, opportunity to be had there.
There is. It's interesting because you talk about the process of why maybe they didn't run the ball more. And part of it, you go, offensive line's bad. That still checks out. With Villanueva and Pouncey now gone, so it's gotten somehow worse. And the depth on that line is a disaster as we speak right now here on April 28th. You start talking about, well, maybe it was a talent issue. Were they not getting what they needed out of the James Conner and company and James Conner's long injury history that he has there? Is there going to be more room for a better back to get more work and more trustworthiness? Maybe. I think that's plausible. The other side is if you're only going to throw the ball 5 or 6 yards down the field every play, for the most part, maybe not every play, but the majority of your plays,
that's fair.
And you have an unbelievably short depth of target for Austin, that can be your quote-unquote running game.
Yep.
That could be a possibility. I don't think Ben's arm's getting better year over year. So I think we saw the decline rapidly all season, but really in those final couple months of the year.
So I guess where we're all leading to, the roads lead to Naji Harris as potentially the first running back off the board. And Naji is solid, if not unspectacular.
Yes.
And typically in these classes, there's one that we can all gather around and be like, oh man, love what he does in the receiving game, love what he does in the open field. I would say Naji's best attributes are his vision, his cutting for his size, his natural physicality, just because he's 6'2", 220-ish, 230-ish pounds. But then he does have this little, I'm not going to say it's underappreciated, I would even say surprising trait, and it's his receiving ability.
Yes.
Like, you look at catches against Texas A&M, catches against LSU, there are these back shoulder throws, 12 to 15 yards down the field, which is uncommon for a player of his size. And you can picture it happening in the NFL. And I think it really does help that this past season at Alabama, he had 53 targets, caught 43 passes. because that type of receiving volume typically is not there for running backs coming into the NFL.
And he's trending northeast as a route runner, as a pass catcher. He's gotten better every single year these last few years, and that's kind of the trend you want to see. He's also a guy, if you're looking at a lot of red zone value. If they're going to run the ball, and Pittsburgh gets in deep, that is an area where he's excelled at. So there's a lot of value there. There's some value to be in volume, but there's a lot of risk as well. And I think I'm trying to place this because I think the best way to do this is kind of place this a little bit with last year's class. You know, I felt a lot better about
Jonathan Taylor?
Well, yes. Jonathan Taylor in general, and then I was like, okay, second half of the year, once they kind of sorted out all their running issues, we didn't expect Marlon Mack to suffer a season-ending injury in week one. You know, DeAndre Swift felt like he was going to be a second-half player. He was, for whatever reason. He should have been earlier. I don't know why Adrian Peterson, they were running him into a brick wall for the first part of the season after, you know, a late cut from Washington. You know, J.K. Dobbins we knew was going to go in a crowded backfield, but all those guys are entering more advantageous, maybe not Swift just because of Jamal Williams being there, situations where they were last season. You're not taking Naji Harris over any of those guys, are you?
No, and I would even throw in Antonio Gibson into that conversation.
I think Antonio Gibson's RB1 territory at this point, low end.
He's going 17 overall right now in Underdog. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's going 23 or 24 after being, you know, the number 6 overall pick in your fantasy drafts last season.
Correcting back to where he should have been.
Yeah. Fair. J.K. Dobbins is going 2 spots ahead. I mean, we have so many second-year running backs in the league right now. I mean, the tier is CEH at 23, DeAndre Swift at 25, then you have J.K. Dobbins at 28, and James Robinson at 31. And that's where Naji Harris is sandwiched right now.
Yeah.
It's in that James Robinson and Chris Carson tier, and it makes sense.
Yes.
You know, Chris Carson back, I believe, on a short-term deal. The team absolutely loves him, and he can be productive in that offense, but health is a standpoint. So it's kind of that pivot point of, okay, we know J.K. Dobbins is going to share some backfield work with Gus Edwards. You can have whatever conversations you want with Miles Sanders, and maybe the Jacksonville, we'll talk about a running back they might add later on. So Najee's there, and while we just talked about the situation and how we don't absolutely love it for running backs, he probably is going to be the best bet to hover around 200 touches.
Yeah, and that matters. Volume matters. And it's going to be really intriguing because you look at all of those players in that range, and that's kind of fair for me. Like Chris Carson's interesting because when he's on the field on a per-game basis, these last 2 years, he's been the RB12. If you combine both seasons.
I love him.
That's where he is. Like, you're going to get, when he's out there and healthy, you're going to get a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 production. You know, those fumble issues didn't rear their ugly head last year, so we kind of got over that a little bit. Rashad Penny's not going to be a thing. I don't care where they drafted him. It was a mistake when they took him in the first round. In the moment, it was a mistake a year later. It's a mistake now. Period, end of story. So he's the guy that becomes interesting, but I think the idea of Naji Harris might push him up the board for ADP purposes.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that he's going to be a guy I'm going to have many shares of just because of that.
I am totally with you. Like, if you want to start heavy running back and go first 2 and then draft a boatload of wide receivers up until like round 7, then you're going to miss out on Naji Harris. Now, if you're someone who does the alternative and starts off, I don't know, with Travis Kelce, then load up with wide receivers, then you're going to miss Naji Harris because you don't want to take a running back there in like, round 3 we talked about. So he's in that dead space where how many people are going to build their rosters, and it's certainly not going to be me. It's going to be someone else that I'm drafting with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, in my head where he could go. It might be the person that takes, like, Devontae Adams in round 1, and they see where they are in round 2, and they're kind of in that mid to late portion of round 3.
And to be honest, right now, he's going in the exact same territory as where James Conner went last year, as where David Johnson went last year, as where Todd Gurley went last year, as where David Montgomery went last year. And those are very far across the spectrum in terms of success rates. I will finally say this, and it'll be good if Naji goes to Pittsburgh because he's going to get volume, because he's definitely going to be an accumulator more than he is going to be a big play player.
Yes.
I mean, he only had 25 carries of 20-plus yards during his college career, and that will probably only get worse at the NFL level. Again, solid, unspectacular, but it certainly sounds like it is going to be a need that will be fulfilled for the Steelers.
Really feels like it. That's where all the momentum is right now. But before we get completely off them, let's talk about another team, because the Steelers now pick at, 24?
Yep.
So there's a team picking 6 spots sooner that needs a running back. Their second pick of the first round, so if you want to get a little bit more luxury, that's the place to do it. They've got Myles Gaskin, who had a really strong season last year. By the way, a player we talked about, no preseason, we would have been tipped off way earlier about their Myles Gaskin plans in Miami. They trade for Matt Breida. They don't really use him a ton. Salvin Ahmed got some work in there when Gaskin got hurt, but he really carved out a role, but he's probably more of a third down, no huddle type of a back that needs that 1A there. What if that 1A is Naji Harris?
It can definitely happen. On the Underdog Football Show, we had Safadine on, who's a local beat writer, and he almost, without mincing words, said that do not be shocked by a running back at 18. Why? Because during last year's draft, the team just before brought in J.K. Dobbins for a visit on the final day. Had J.K. Dobbins on the phone before the Ravens took him one pick after them. Yeah. And so in a class, and this is something we'll probably get to in a moment, in a class where I think both of us, your entire scouting staff, would say this isn't the best running back class at all. What that might do is propel people up rather than down.
It's what we talked about with, I know it's not a fantasy thing, but it's Christian Barmore conversation.
Yeah.
The weak IDL class is pushing him up.
Yeah.
Like that's someone that is not graded as a first rounder for most analysts. Definitely not a top 25 player for most analysts, but that's where he could go.
Yeah, because if you don't have a back that you love in round 3 or round 4, day 2 or day 3, then you're like, okay. And there are even like physical types like this that can hold 200 touches, at least to what the traditional running back mold is, then that's going to force these teams to say, okay, we have a second first round pick. We don't want this J.K. Dobbins situation to be there anymore. We're just going to take him at 18. I think that's possible, but it's also possible with a few other names we're talking about too.
And we'll get into one second. That's a great point because you think about the top of the second round right now, and you have Jacksonville obviously at the very top of it, but you've got the Jets, you've got the Falcons, you've got the Dolphins all picking pretty high. So if you're picking in the back half of the first round without a trade up, you're not getting definitely not the top 2 guys, maybe not the top 3 guys. So if you're in love with one of these prospects or there's a massive tier break for you at a position of need, you might have to spend that pick at the end of round, somewhere in that back half of round 1, because they're not going to make it to you in the 50s.
Yeah, I think the line still out there in books is over 1.5 running backs in round 1, and that's at like minus 154. Yeah. Hammer that. I mean, look, I'm someone who believes you can find running backs a lot of places, yet there are still some special ones out there. Would not call anyone in this class the running back position special, yet the closer we get, 26 hours away, 24 hours away.
Less than 24 hours now. As everybody on Twitter reminded you. I think everybody had their tweets scheduled at the same time.
24 hours away. I'm more and more certain that we're going to see 2 running backs in the first round.
Agree completely. A week ago, I was talking myself into none.
Me too.
2 days ago, I'm like, there's 2 going, and I feel very confident.
And I know that this is a fantasy show, so we don't talk about defense very much. But the whole last 2 months, we've talked about how this is a worse defensive class. Yeah. And last night, I'm putting my mock together, and all I can do is force linebackers and corners into round 1. And what was I saying a month ago? Yeah. Like, I didn't expect to do this at all. What has happened to me, Jamie?
I don't. It's so funny because now we're sitting here, and it's amazing how much changes in a week's time with some of the guys. Like, Owusu Koromora, for example, was a guy that was considered a consensus first rounder. Now we're here, and maybe he falls out of round 1.
I'll take odds on that he's still in round 1.
But anyways, but not all those linebackers are going to go.
Yeah, true.
Who likes the edges there? So there's so many interesting dynamics. So you're going to have to take one of these running backs, and the second one I think ends up going in round 1 is Travis Etienne. Let's talk about the landing spot now that's been very common, and we'll talk about a couple of the other ones, are the Buffalo Bills. They've invested some day 2 capital in a couple of running backs they have there, in Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, but anybody who watched them clearly saw they didn't get the pop they wanted out of those guys. Do they triple down here with the highest piece of capital at the position that they've had in the recent years and say, we want Travis Etienne to be in this offense, particularly if the logic is going to be, we want Josh Allen to take fewer hits now that we know he can win us games in other ways?
I understand the thought process. I also understand this is what I try to do, like put myself in these scenarios when we hear prospects linked with teams, and one, does it fit what they did in the past? Yeah. Or maybe does it fit what they want to be in the future? And in this case, it would be what they want to be in the future because it's not what they've done in the past. Because if you look at Zach Moss, if you look at Devin Singletary, 2 different body types, but Zach Moss was great on contact. Devin Singletary was great at avoiding contact. So they're both in some ways missed tackles or broken tackles. Yeah. That's not Travis Etienne's game.
No.
But maybe they think, okay, we already have those types on there. We just want more juice. And that's the phrase I keep using with Travis Etienne is speed.
Yeah.
He's basically the only one in this class with that type of athleticism out of the backfield that's low 4.4 speed with a 1.56, 10-yard split that has feature back workload, that has that history already, and even in the receiving game. So, again, to me, this would be a pivot for them where we saw Brian Daboll last year want to get speed out in the field, want to spread everyone out. And absolutely, Travis Etienne, like he did in college, would maximize the space that Brian Daboll would afford to him more so than some of these other running backs.
He's proved as a pass catcher last couple years, made a concerted effort to do that. You mentioned the speed. Not a small guy either. I saw him out down at House of Athlete about a month ago now in Fort Lauderdale, up to 215 pounds. So he is a player that's really interesting to me. I do have some pass protection concerns.
Okay.
So that's going to be something that I look at and I say, if there are some hiccups early, if there are some preseason hiccups for that, does that delay his true opportunity there, particularly since there are other capable backs? That's probably as nice as I'll put that, but there are other capable backs there in Buffalo, and they throw it a ton. I guess my concern would be is, do you believe that if they add a player like Etienne, are they going to take away some of these red zone rushes for Josh Allen that have been so incredibly effective? Because if they're not, like Josh Allen's been that like 6, 7, 8 rushing touchdown a year guy, which has been massive for his fantasy value. If those go away, that not only affects Josh Allen's value, but if they stay, what is Etienne's upside?
I think that's a great question. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it would take away the design Josh Allen runs.
Correct, which are
but
huge.
It's never going to take away
The scramble.
No. Josh Allen runs, because we know he's a pedal to the floor player that if nothing is available, he's going to run the left sideline, he's going to run the left sideline, and he's going to run you over by planting his foot and getting up the field. And I think that's always going to be a part of Josh Allen's game. You can't remove that aspect from him. But from the design run standpoint, absolutely. Like, there were moments, I'd say more of my co-hosts, they talked me into, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, where they were going in drafts. They were pointless players for us, for our purposes.
Yes.
Travis Etienne would not be. And I go back to the fact that, Brian Daboll is someone who understands speed and spacing on the field. And Etienne did that at Clemson, and he could do that in the NFL too.
25 rushing touchdowns and 43 starts for Josh Allen. I mean, that is 8-9-8 in his first 3 years in the NFL. In that first year, he only had 11 starts. That's a lot to his fantasy value. So it's just something to consider. Obviously, most people aren't going to have to make any decisions on any of these guys until after the draft. But I think there's a point where, I get it. You're competing with, in Buffalo's mind, your boogeyman are the Chiefs. That's the team if you want to reach your goal, that's the team you have to beat, and you're going to have to outscore Patrick Mahomes and company. I get it. But from a fantasy perspective, somebody has to lose somewhere. And that's my only concern, where if we look at this, is either if you think Josh Allen is going to be used that often there, not that Etienne is like a traditional red zone back or anything of that nature, but touchdowns are going to be a huge part of that value, particularly like on Underdog is half PPR. So you're not going to get as much credit for some of the catches he might have out of the backfield, which is another element of the game that I want to see Josh Allen improve in, but he needs an option that's reliable. Like, I don't think that's Josh Allen's not going to check down. I just think, where was he going to check down to?
I know you did your homework. Do you know where Josh Allen's going right now in terms of the quarterbacks?
It's
going as quarterback two. Quarterback 2. It's Patrick Mahomes.
I get it, but...
And Josh Allen as quarterback 2.
He would probably, I would still probably go Mahomes 1. I might go Lamar 2. I want to see what they do tomorrow and Friday. I get the Josh Allen going 3. It's just weird.
Let's not forget about Dak Prescott, how he started last year either.
If I was confident Dak Prescott was fully healthy, he probably would have been my QB2.
My only closing comment on this with the Bills is often when you look at teams in the back half of round 1, it's about replacing declining players or replacing ones that are going to be 2022 needs. And both Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes are on contract years. And it just makes sense from a Travis Etienne selection is making a strength even stronger. But at what point, and maybe they think like that was just a complete down year for the Bills defense, can you turn your weaknesses into, adequacies or strengths even? And adding one of the pass rushers in the back half of round 1 makes a lot of sense. But trust me, I would love the rocket ship and Etienne on that offense for sure.
Let's talk about him on another team here. If he doesn't go to Buffalo, and let's say he starts slipping into round 2, which is very possible, Let's talk about a team that gets.
Hey, look, I'm not putting him out of round one either. Like Miami, we talked about Miami as a possibility, absolutely, even above Naji Harris. And just to bring this back to Safadine, he was telling us that Naji and Tua are great friends. And I mean, great friends. And if Tua has any say, which apparently it looks like from a roster building standpoint he might, then Naji could be the pick. But it would also be an indication of, okay, Tua has 2021, but he might not have it beyond if Etienne is the pick there.
Yes.
At 18. And I have also been told that the Dolphins in some ways evaluate 1 year out, and Etienne being at the top of the board at that position is one way to look at it. And then we have to throw out Arizona. Arizona is also a possibility if players.
That's exciting to think about in that offense.
It would
and
be.
You know, especially because at that point you take them at 16, you're not going with. I mean, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle have been two players that have been mocked to them at different spots. But that becomes really interesting because Chase Edmonds has shown some flashes, and I know there's been a couple coaching staffs that have gone through there and have liked his game. James Conner, I think, is just the guy.
Yep.
Love his story, love what he's done so far, but I don't think he's somebody that you look at and say, he's taking any touches away from one of these premier rookies. That gets exciting, just putting him in an offense with a lot of spacing. But I also think part of me says it sounds more exciting than I think it actually will end up being.
The thing about Arizona is they have 2 top 159 selections, and that's it.
Yeah, the draft capital is the problem.
So if we get past the first and second round with Arizona, then I'm drafting a boatload of Chase Edmonds this summer.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though they did sign James Conner, and maybe that's in their mind an indication of where Chase Edmonds is, he is also someone that I think is far more talented than James Conner. And so just where he's going to go in drafts, that's what I feel.
And look, even if James Conner steals short yardage work and steals some touchdowns, I don't want to say I don't care, but that's not where the bulk of Chase Edmonds' value is going to be anyway. That's not where he produced for you when Kenyon Drake was out of the lineup before.
Right.
You know, him being on the field, in those shotgun situations, in the 4-minute drills, in those pass-catching roles, that's where you want him to be. And I think if I agree with you, if they get through Friday and they haven't brought in one of these top backs, I'm all aboard the train. I think that would be extremely, extremely interesting.
I interrupted where you might have been suggesting somewhere in day 2. Was there a fit you had in mind in day 2?
No. I just meant like I could see like a team trading up.
Oh,
I could see a team like, 'cause
I like that.
I think 16 if you're Arizona or 18 with Miami's a little rich.
I like that.
I guess Miami doesn't have to trade up. I mean, they're sitting there, 36 in round 2? Like that could be a spot for them as well. But it's interesting to see where he could go because I still think his betting over-under right now is like 31.5, I believe is what I saw at last. So we'll see. I'm of the mind that both Harris and Etienne go in the first round tomorrow night, but we will see how that plays out.
I will be honest, though. Neither one of them are my favorite backs in this class.
Is the next guy we're talking about your favorite?
It is.
Is it because he can do just a little bit of everything very well?
If it's Javonte Williams.
It is Javonte Williams.
What I think is most predictable jumping from college to the NFL is that broken tackles. It's that creating yards on your own. And Javonte Williams breaks the mold in that regard. I mean, we all have biases with these evaluations. And that's my bias of once you have him wrapped up or tried to, he breaks your tackle. Or he has these invisible hidden yards at the end of falling forward for 2 or to 3 to 4.
Yep.
And to me, more than anyone else in this class, Javonte Williams does that best.
Going more than a full round later than Etienne right now in underdog ADP, which I think we start talking about some value for these players. And obviously this will switch when we actually put teams to player. It will change where the ADP goes. But if you're going to get out there in advance, defenders fall off him. Like they just do it. I know there were some out there that were a little bit disappointed with his 40 time. You look at the guy, what he's done throughout his career there. He's a smart runner. He's a monster in the red zone. It's just, he could do a little bit of everything well. Great vision. And by the way, he's good in pass protection too, which I know that might get lost in the shuffle, but he's got to get on the field. And the quickest way to not get pulled off the field as a rookie running back is making sure your quarterback stays upright. I'm really intrigued as we start to get into some of these. The Bills could be really interesting, and we've just talked a lot about what they have on the opening side.
This is a great fit for them. If what they have looked for in the past is any indication of what they might look for in the future.
He would be, and I would think that we would love him right in that range. But let's say we get to day 2, and we start to look at the Jets, the Falcons, the Dolphins sitting up there at the top. Let's start with the New York Jets. They have a lot of needs at 23. So if they don't go running back there's corner, there's edge, there's offensive line considerations. Those are all still in play at the top of round 2. But right now they don't have that featured back. They brought in Tevin Coleman. They have LaMichael Pirine. They've got pieces there, but they don't have somebody that you look and say, that is a true surefire starter. What if he winds up there? Rookie quarterback, they don't have a ton of weapons on offense right now. It's not really a dynamic team. They're still not going to be very good, so there's not going to be a lot of second-half rushing opportunities. But there's the opportunity to get a lot of work right away, a lot like we talked about with Naji Harris in Pittsburgh.
I would like it from an opportunity standpoint, but I'm not sure about the fit. And maybe in my head, I'm like crediting Mike LaFleur's association too much with Kyle Shanahan. Maybe that's what I'm doing. But Kyle's types in the past have been Raheem Mostert, have been Tevin Coleman, who are on the Jets, have been Matt Breida, that kind of one-cut style, outside zone, and like get up the field. I'm not sure if that's Javonte Williams type.
No. It's not really, no.
But then there aren't that many around. Maybe they kind of just like punt the position.
Yeah, maybe they subscribe to the theory, and Mike LaFleur is like, I can do it without an elite option.
Yeah.
I can find guys that just do the one or two things I really want to do well, and we can have success there. There's also the factor of they're not winning next year. There's not a team that's going to compete in 2021. They might say, do we really want to invest in a young running back that, and I know he's younger than a lot of the other guys in the class at the position, but do we really want to invest in him when we're not looking for that featured role guy for 2 or 3 years when we can groom a corner? We can groom, so do you take a chance if Caleb Farley falls out of the first round? With all the stuff that's going on with his injury history, do you say, I'm going to take a chance on a guy like Caleb Farley? Because if we get limited production from him from year 1, whatever, as long as he's healthy for year 2 and beyond, we have a potential top 10 talent that's got injury issues.
I'm going to throw a completely random name at you.
Okay.
If they're looking for that day 3 running back type that has that juice and speed and one-cut ability, Javian Hawkins out of Louisville makes a lot of sense. But he also makes a lot of sense for the 49ers, who are a bit thinner at running back than they have been in the past. Back to Javonte Williams, though. What we're always going to hear, even when he lands at this spot, is that he didn't have a lot of passing game work. And while that is true, it's not like he was invisible in that area.
He was fine with the opportunities.
Yeah, he was okay. I mean, he had 30 targets, 24 receptions. I think he also had 3 drops on those 30 targets as well. He does kind of like fight the football in his hands, but again, he's not going to be Christian McCaffrey during his rookie year or his second year and, get 100 catches, 100 targets. Like, that's not going to be necessarily his type. So fit, landing spot matters the most, but I also feel like the team that drafts Javonte Williams will allow him to work in his strengths, and maybe he can grow and continue to develop, because working with another name we're going to talk about, Michael Carter, just means you're not going to have those passing game opportunities.
Exactly. So what do you think about the team like the Dolphins? We've talked a lot about with Naji Harris.
Yeah.
We talked about with Etienne. Like, that's another one that can go there. Miles Gaskin can still play role on third down. But what about Atlanta? I know they bring in Mike Davis.
Don't do this to me.
There's all this conversation. It's Arthur Smith. We saw what happened in Tennessee, how often they run the ball, want to run play action off of it.
Oh, it works.
They don't have I think Mike Davis is a worthwhile player, but he's still somebody that you can upgrade on.
First of all, Mike Davis is awesome. Don't undersell Mike Davis.
Look, you know why I'm bitter? Because I was on the Mike Davis Bears train a few years back. I'm like, that's going to be the guy. And it didn't even make it to like week 6.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Carolina, fills in more than admirably for Christian McCaffrey last year.
Right.
Can do a little bit of everything, but he's somebody you can still upgrade on or work a tandem with.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. First of all, who would have thought, 3 years ago, that we'd sit here in 2021 and say Mike Davis is considerably better than Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah.
That's absolutely the point we're at right now.
One of them is signed.
Look, it would be fine. It would be good. That team is going to have, but you'd have to use a second round pick. So after using Kyle Pitts in round 1
it's going
and then
all
going
offense,
back,
everything.
all offense, everything, give Arthur Smith. But we know what Arthur Smith, let me pull it up right here, what Arthur Smith did last year with the Titans. I mean, we talked about this the other day. 14th in total plays, 30th in pass plays, 2nd in run plays across the league. I mean, there's going to be a lot of volume there in that backfield.
It's going to have to change a little bit, to your point on the podcast a couple days ago, but it's not going to flip the other way. They're not going to 180 here. Like why change what's worked? So it's intriguing just because that's a team that's got a lot of volume. There isn't, I said Mike Davis can play different spots. Like he can be a third down guy if you need him to. He could be an early down guy depending on what running back they decide to bring in, if they bring in one on day 2 or day 3.
Mike Davis is going to cost $2.25 million against the cap this year.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a solid second running back salary, but it's not necessarily the starter salaries that we're hearing and seeing.
It's a
if
safety
they
net.
want right. It's not something. And again, Falcons have very little cap space.
Yes.
But it's not one of these where if they wanted to replace him with a rookie, that it's unreasonable based on what they gave Mike Davis.
Agree completely. Let's go on to another name that I think is going to get, depending on the landing spot, a lot of buzz. And I can't call him a sleeper because everybody's going to be talking about him. Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah.
He is a fascinating player. People are going to look at what Antonio Gibson did last year, coming out of Memphis as a player with limited touches as a running back that had an instant, immediate impact in Washington. You know, Gainwell was somebody before the Giovanni Bernard signing was like everybody was clamoring, get him with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Feels unlikely that that's a place now. But you start to look at maybe Buffalo or Atlanta, Arizona, or maybe Carolina, maybe using him as the Curtis Samuel role that has been vacated with him going off to Washington. Is there a particular team or fit that you say, this player could end up being somebody that you take a shot on in underdog best ball leagues, and he can be maybe not a league winner, that's asking a lot, but he can be a weekly contributor for you in the back half of the season?
Do you know who he reminds me of? And he doesn't have quite the same athleticism or explosion. Austin Eckler. It might be aesthetically how he holds the football, how he was used at Memphis, but it's just reminiscent of that game. But I also think Austin Eckler is one of the types that breaks the mold. And I'm not sure that there's a whole bunch of those that can. I also believe Gainwell probably gained some weight during his year off and tried to show that he can be athletic at this size, and it probably cost him in those areas. But hopefully the audience knows I loved Antonio Gibson. If they didn't, even pre-draft, then I didn't do my job well enough. But if we remember back to Memphis, Antonio Gibson was mainly a slot receiver, but only had about like 30 catches and 30 carries during that final season. In that same season, which was Kenneth Gainwell's last year of college football, 2019, he had 231 carries and 51 receptions. I mean, when you had a great back in the backfield, Antonio Gibson, they're like, no, we want to give Kenneth Gainwell 280 touches.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. That's amazing. And it speaks to the talent that he is. I'm just not sure if I would put him, like, again, Gibson, what we know of him in the NFL now, I would even say he's a stronger runner and a great running back prospect. And I can't wait for his 2021 season. And despite, again, the last time Gainwell played football, him seeing a way higher workload, I think Gibson's the better football player, and obviously you should draft him higher.
So this gets interesting because where do you see his projection for year one for Gainwell? Do you think he can be? I know landing spot's obviously going to dictate this. Do you think he's a gadgety player? Do you think he's a player that's going to be limited in the amount of touches because of his frame? Do you think the transition from Memphis' spread offense, light boxes, is going to be something he's going to have to overcome if he's going to have any sort of impact in the running game at all? Like, where do you kind of see him falling into that run?
It's a great question because, I don't know, I kind of look around the league right now, and it feels like pretty much everyone is set at their running back position, that even in their secondary option, other than the Jaguars, like, I don't really see a need out there. Like, we talk about the Bengals, and maybe they would do it after getting rid of Gio, but it sounds like just Joe Mixon is going to have that workload. You look at the Denver Broncos just adding Mike Boone. The Lions obviously have a wealth of running backs. Obviously, the Cowboys don't need one. The Giants, maybe. But, like...
I mean, look, they need Saquon Barkley insurance.
Correct.
A bit. Like, I'm trying to even think, who's their number two now with, what's his...
and it's not Wayne Gallman.
No, Gallman's in San Francisco.
Correct.
So I'm trying to think, I'm going to look it up right now because I want to know because... Look, and by the way,
it was Devontae Freeman to end last year.
It was Devontae Freeman, who had some, it had some here and there games for them.
But what we're getting at is, it certainly feels like the running back position is somewhat secure across the league. Oh, well, I mean,
so
maybe that's the area. Maybe it's with the Giants.
Yeah, I think that could be a fun spot. Because, look, I talked about this a lot, and I know I'm going to get, you say, you don't know this, but I'm going to get a ton of hate on my Saquon Barkley.
No one would do that for you.
No, and I'm very hateable, Josh.
Are you?
Yeah.
I've known you for
Josh, I'm not a good
48
person.
hours, and I don't think so.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you. You know what? You could stick around longer. I kind of need the hype, man. But for those that are regular listeners to the TDN Fantasy podcast, you know my take on Saquon Barkley this year, which is going to be I'm going to have 0 shares.
Yeah, that's not hateable.
I have him as my RB12 right now.
Well, that's
I see. Okay. You didn't hear the whole story. Now you're not. My only concern with, and it's not a talent issue, it is, I believe Fantasy Labs did a study going back to 1999 where running backs coming off of ACL surgery that next year average about 2/3 of their fantasy total from the year prior. And I don't think I'm going to put him that low, but I think we're talking in a full PPR, we're talking like a 16 fantasy points per game type of a player. I don't think we're getting 20. And I'm watching where he's going in fantasy drafts now, and you're paying full price. He's going RB3, RB4. I'm curious what his underdog ADP is.
running back 4.
Like, you're paying as if he went out last year and gave you a top 5 fantasy season.
No, that's totally fair. I mean,
and he didn't.
He's going ahead of Alvin Kamara. He's going ahead of Aaron Jones. You have Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, Cam Akers, and there's some projection.
Yeah, but I'm
of
taking
that group.
all of
Nick
those
Chubb.
guys over him.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But
Running back 12 is a bit far.
I
but
get
maybe
it.
we'll settle on like running back 8.
I can live with that.
Okay.
Because look,
We'll meet in the middle.
if everything clicks, he could be RB1.
Right.
And by the way, I'd be all in a year from now.
Yeah.
Potentially if they have an upgraded quarterback too. But it's just, but this could be a spot because you had the ankle injury a couple years ago with him, but he came back from unbelievably quickly. He's coming off the ACL now. What is the secondary option? I know John Gruden tried to work Devontae Booker in and everybody else because they're just not going to. Josh Jacobs is just not going to catch passes. Whether it's Theo Riddick getting catches there or Jalen Richard getting catches there, Devontae Booker playing surprisingly prolonged stretches of drives there in Las Vegas last year. He's a capable player, but again, somebody that is easily upgradable in the middle rounds.
Not to get all philosophical on you, but I have this theory about the running back position, how it's acquired in the NFL, that so many teams want that like thunder and lightning, like the two different types.
Yeah.
Why not just have the same type?
Yeah.
You know, why wouldn't the Chargers now go out and get Kenneth Gainwell rather than deal with like the Kalen Ballages and the Josh McKellys of the world last year? Like, there's always this thing, and the Panthers, I wanted them to go get like Rex Burkhead to be a very similar player to like Christian McCaffrey. You know, but there's very much this, okay, we have a smaller back who's great in the receiving game. We need the Brandon Jacobs, the big power guy, you know? And I don't know if that's anymore because once one of those players gets on the field, it's a tell. You're shifting your offense. You're doing things differently. So while I was kind of going through that lesson thinking, okay, this guy's different enough than this lead back, why not get something a little bit similar? You know what I mean?
Yeah, if what you're doing is working, just keep using that philosophy. And I agree with you completely. Not being predictable is a huge plus on offense. That's not exactly breaking news, I know, but it's a huge plus. And when you see certain teams that just only bring in these guys on third down, and look what happens in Tennessee, where it's just like, okay, where they're taking Derrick Henry off the field. Oh, Jerry McNichols is in the game. I wonder what they might be doing.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that, or Deion Lewis the years prior. Like having those different types of, those same types of players that are able to go complement each other by just having the same skill set makes a ton of sense.
Okay, prediction.
Sure.
And if this happens, I mean, no, Nostradamus over here.
It's on the record.
118 to the Chargers.
Okay.
This is where Kenneth Gainwell is going to go. Or 125 to the Vikings. Done.
That's a fun one as well, too.
Because I like Alexander Madison. I really like Alexander Madison. I like Dalvin Cook. But if they want to do something a little bit more along with having that receiving weapon, there we go. 125 to the Vikings.
How do you feel about Madison in particular? Just because
I like him.
We like the skill, but is he ever going to be a player that's worth more than a handcuff investment in the next couple years? Like, are we could?
No, that's just where he's at. That's where he's at with running back
Because
insurance.
we got 14 games out of Dalvin Cook last year, and look, every running back is injury risk. Period. End of story. Just playing the position is an injury risk, but. I think everybody kind of kept. It feels like for all the two guys every year in the last couple of years, it's Alexander Madison, it's Tony Pollard,
right?
And everybody they just got to get their chance.
Yeah,
but they really haven't.
No.
So
but the great thing about best ball is you can draft them
That's true.
later on and not have to worry about them taking and occupying a spot on your bench, because we know in season-long leagues and redraft leagues that once you get to week 3, week 4. You're itching to have, a receiver off the waiver wire that adds 8 to 10 to 12 points, and you're starting to look at that guy that you spent a fairly significant investment in as running back insurance. But obviously in best ball, it only matters when he has big weeks.
That's true.
And that's that.
Kenneth Gainwell right now going to right around pick 109 in Underdog ADP. So that's kind of, we're now outside the top 100 for the guys that we're going to be talking about now. Want to go to somebody else that's about a half a round later, going right around 115, 116. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your co-host is pretty high on this player.
Yeah.
It's Trey Sermon.
I really like Trey Sermon. He is one of the few players we talked about with Naji Harris who, I mean, we know Naji, when he goes round one, is going to get a boatload of work.
Yes.
But there just aren't that many profiles after round one that you say, hey, size, speed, between the tackles, outside the numbers, creating yards on your own. Can you handle 200 touches? Trey Sermon is one of those.
Yes.
I know he's had a long college career. He's had some injuries along the way. When I watched him at Ohio State this year, I loved what I saw. And it's not necessarily this like one-cut guy. He just quickly, like he makes the turn just about as acutely, that's the right term, right?
Yes.
Acutely as possible. And I really like what Trey Sermon brings to the table. And especially if he goes to like the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
You know, especially if he goes to the Arizona Cardinals somehow, if they trade down from their second round pick, right? If he goes to one of the teams that has some question marks entering the draft and they're like, okay, the reason we didn't invest early is because we wanted Trey Sermon in round 3 or round 4. Boom, yeah. I'm in.
Or if Pittsburgh goes OL.
I'm in.
Round 1, like, and he's the guy that come back in later. So do you think he's getting hurt by the fact that he's considered a 2-down back? Like we are so, we're so at the running back position, pass catch heavy. And for those that took advantage of the J.D. McKissics of the world last year, just the value that just, especially in full PPR, no Underdog's half PPR, but for those that play in full, I mean, McKissic was a cheat code for about half the season where he was just getting,
Correct.
I mean,
when he's
those,
attached to Alex
those
Smith.
15 target games when they just were not going down the field. Because Sermon's what? He's physical, he's tough, he's that traditional, like, looks like and plays like an NFL running back. You can envision his role very easily.
Definitely.
But he's been a non-factor in the passing game in his college career. He gains the yards at his team from unbelievable stiff arm. That's just highlight reel rating to happen. I mean, Derrick Henry's got the highlight reel stiff arms. Trey Sermon can at least get a couple packages in for him going on. So I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, 32 catches during his entire collegiate career, just 12 last season. We talked about how people expect Javonte Williams to have a transition into the receiving work, even more so with Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
Even more so. But again, we just want him to land with one of those teams that has questions. And if that happens, let's roll.
I'd be really excited to see that. I really, because I think he's somebody right now going, right, like I said, right around 115, 116.
And that's around, like, no names. I mean, that's around David Johnson, Zach Moss, Nyheim Hines, Chuba Hubbard, you know? And you asked why he might not be getting as much love. And I think it's because outside of, like, the top 2 or top 3 running backs, everyone's just going to find their favorite.
Yeah.
And then they cape for their guy. We're on here caping for Trey Sermon right now.
Let's end with this one. And it's a guy I think is going at just a tremendous value right now in Underdog ADP, and that's Michael Carter, who I think could actually
137, 138.
Yeah, but right now he's going behind guys like Chuba Hubbard. He's going behind all the guys we talked about so far. Strong pass catcher, could have a role right away, can join a team. You know, right now I think some fits with whether it's with Denver, with the Bills, with the Jets, the
Jacksonville.
Falcons, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville 106. Let's make that happen with Michael Carter.
Let's make it happen.
He's someone, we have James Robinson who got a boatload of work despite them being bad last year. We know they're going to toss the rock around. He's not going to take away some of that early down work that James Robinson has. But Michael Carter still has some vision, some shiftiness between the tackles. And whatever opportunities he gets, he's absolutely a 3rd or 4th round pick, and the Jaguars make the most sense at 106.
Yeah, I'd be really excited for him at that sort of value. You're going to take a chance on somebody. He could have a pass catching role for you right away, can be a player that, you know, is probably in like a flex territory, a bye week guy that you pull in off your bench, but has that chance, and he's going pretty late right now. So, you know, Josh, any final thoughts here as we wrap this up? We are less than 24 hours away until the actual NFL draft where we can finally put teams and players together.
I can't wait to stop speaking in hypotheticals and to start speaking. I mean, it's the summer of Underdog. Like, I am so excited to start hyping up these players that we love, and there's an early edge. Like, if you think you can get ahead of everyone in terms of the production, that first month, those first 2 weeks before the ADP starts shifting back to the norm, this is the best time to execute on that. And coming up, Best Ball Mania 2, when it's $1 million prize, $3.5 million prize pool, that's the best way to put your money where your mouth is.
Underdog Fantasy, the place you want to be for best ball, for fantasy, right now and throughout the season. Brinks TV, where you want to be the entire NFL draft coverage, wall-to-wall coverage. You do not want to miss it. That's Josh Norris. I'm Jaime Eisner. This was the Underdog Fantasy Football Show on Brinks TV. We will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Josh. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for a full, beautiful week of pre-draft coverage. We do have one more pre-draft day. We'll have live content throughout the day with our official Round 1 pre-show beginning at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, Round 1 kicks off at 8 p.m. Wonder who the Jags are going to take. If you wanted to find out, the Draft Network, Brinks TV in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Intergalactic home of winning. Brinks TV, the 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 intergalactic home of winning.
All right, here is indisputable proof that Kill Cliff is the world's first and best clean energy drink. Now, in your interweb thingies, just type world's first cleanenergydrink.com or world's best cleanenergydrink.com or world's first and best clean energy drink ever.com. It all leads to killcliff.com right there on the interwebs. Boom! Mic drop. Yeah.
It's the Killcliff $1 Million Mega Stimmy Sweepstakes on Brinks.tv. First, register on Brinks.tv and automatically get your first entry. Next, get bonus entries when you buy Killcliff at retail. Confirm your entry by uploading your receipt at killcliff.com. Then, repeat. The more you buy, the more chances to win. To find the retailer that sells Killcliff nearest you, check out the store locator at killcliff.com. Brinks TV, loving on you with lots of cash and prizes.
As a reward for making Killcliff the undisputed clean energy drink of America and beyond, we've packed in more B vitamins, electrolytes, and killer taste than ever. And as a bonus, we've made the ultimate loyalty program. It's not a cult, it's not a club, it's the Killcliff Cult Club. Tap into special offers like flash sales and exclusive merch, deep discounts, and eternal awesomeness. Go to killcliff.com to get your discounts on.
Oh yeah, from Killcliff, the #1 clean energy drink in the mind of Joe Rogan, comes the Flamin' Joe. Sugar-free, B vitamins, electrolytes, all them good drink things. An epic spicy pineapple fusion from out of this world, straight into your drink hole. Own it. Killcliff.com.
A long time ago, people used to watch TV and win jack squat. In other words, you will win nothing and like it. But now, Brinks.tv brings you the ultimate show where the whole frickin' point is to win prizes every day. Good God, man, behold, the Emperor winning. Never felt so good because he or she or it or they or whatever pronoun the Emperor identifies as could be nie Freunde. Whatever he or she or he calls himself, herself or nie self, you will only win when the decision is made by the Emperor.
Brinks.tv, where winning is like a wiener. The bigger, the better.
Thank you for coming today. I have important announcement. Killcliff is world's first and best clean energy drink. It come to my attention some people claim they are first clean energy. Fake. I hate fake people. Exhibit A. Here I am in secret lab making Joe Rogan Flaming Joe. Best-selling clean energy drink in world. Exhibit B. Type world's first and best clean energy drink ever.com. It's Killcliff.
Best ball season is here, and it's bigger than ever. With no waivers, trades, or setting lineups, it has never been easier to have a shot at the $1 million grand prize. Underdog Fantasy lets you draft a season-long league in seconds, thanks to their slick mobile app and state-of-the-art website. And best of all, if you don't love it, there's a $100 money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Draft for the 2021 season today.
Brinks TV. Play, win, repeat. Oh my. Play, win, repeat. Oh my. Play, win, repeat. Oh my.
Thank you for coming today. I have important announcement. Killcliff is world's first and best clean energy drink. It come to my attention some people claim they are first clean energy. Fake. I hate fake people. Exhibit A. Here I am in secret lab making Joe Rogan Flaming Joe. Best-selling clean energy drink in world. Exhibit B. Type world's first and best clean energy drink ever.com. It's Killcliff.
Brinks TV, the intergalactic home of winning.
All right, here is indisputable proof that Killcliff is the world's first and best clean energy drink. Now, in your interweb thingies, just type world's first cleanenergydrink.com or world's best cleanenergydrink.com. or world's first and best clean energy drink ever.com. It all leads to killcliff.com right there on the interwebs. Boom! Mic drop. Yeah.
It's the Killcliff $1 Million Mega Stimmy Sweepstakes on Brinks.tv. First, register on Brinks.tv and automatically get your first entry. Next, get bonus entries when you buy Killcliff at retail. Confirm your entry by uploading your receipt at killcliff.com. Then, repeat. The more you buy, the more chances to win. To find the retailer that sells Killcliff nearest you, check out the store locator at killcliff.com. Brinks TV, loving on you with lots of cash and prizes.
This is where it starts, where your story begins. This is the trail you blaze yourself. And step by step, you get stronger, faster, better. This is where it starts. How will you finish? Angles, we're with you every step of the way.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Laser Kitty and I, and the whole Killcliff team, that's a temporary name, are understandably upset that someone is claiming that Killcliff is not the world's first and best clean energy drink. Totally preposterous. Laser Kitty, the floor is yours. Let 'em have it. That was beautiful. Thank you, Laser Kitty. For the first and best clean energy drink, go to killcliff.com.
Best ball season is here, and it's bigger than ever. With no waivers, trades, or setting lineups, it has never been easier to have a shot at the $1 million grand prize. Underdog Fantasy lets you draft a season-long league in seconds, thanks to their slick mobile app and state-of-the-art website. And best of all, if you don't love it, there's a $100 money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Draft for the 2021 season today.
Brings TV. Play, win, repeat. Oh my. Play, win, repeat. Oh my. Play, win, repeat. Oh my. Brings TV, the intergalactic home of winning.
All right, here is indisputable proof that Killcliff is the world's first and best clean energy drink. Now, in your interweb thingies, just type world's first cleanenergydrink.com or world's best cleanenergydrink.com or world's first and best clean energy drink ever.com. It all leads to killcliff.com right there on the interwebs. Boom! Mic drop. Yeah.
It's the Killcliff $1 Million Mega Stimmy Sweepstakes on Brinks.tv. First, register on Brinks.tv and automatically get your first entry. Next, get bonus entries when you buy Killcliff at retail. Confirm your entry by uploading your receipt at killcliff.com. Then, repeat. The more you buy, the more chances to win. To find the retailer that sells Killcliff nearest you, check out the store locator at killcliff.com. Brinks TV, loving on you with lots of cash and prizes.